it's always interesting to have a pain experience. So this was a huge impact, you know, it was a big smash into my arm. And what I've noticed is that my pain system, or how I react to the pain, has had a couple of fascinating variations. And I think that because I have two kind of hats. The one hat is me suffering, ouch, ouch, God, this is driving me nuts. And the second is me watching what the hell's happening, because I work as a pain specialist, and I can, in a way, that helps because I can become a little bit more objective as to what's happening in my processing. And I noticed two really interesting variations. The first is something I know terribly well, and the second is something that I've never noticed before. So the thing that I know terribly well is that, as initially it was terribly, really, really sore, and I walked around with because I couldn't actually extend my arm. I couldn't move my arm because the biceps had become crushed. But then as time went on, I was able to move more and more, and I now have a full range of movement, and it's sore if I start lifting anything, but I'm working away at that. So during the day, I'm tending to get better, except if I overdo it, then I have a burning pain, which is in my biceps, comes up into my shoulder, across the front where the board smacked into it, and goes down into my arm to where all the bruising is. Like this is much less. I had bruising from right up there, but the bruise is shrinking, which is great. Okay, so that I know, and the pain that I get is a very particular, it's a sort of deep burning thing which moves in this direction. So that's the pain from my injury. At night, this is the interesting thing for me, is that at night, the first night, I was really worried about what would happen, and I kind of organized myself with a whole lot of pillows, and I got myself in, and I slept like a baby. The second night was hell. Why did I sleep like a baby the first night? I have no idea, but the second night was hell, and subsequent to that, my nights stayed terrible. I would just wake up and wake up and wake up with this horrible pain and go grumble, grumble, try and find another comfortable position. And this is falling into a pattern that I had when I initially injured my back, where years ago, 6-7 years later, I was still having awful pain. And this is a reactive pattern. So I had fallen into the same thing, that during the day, my pain was getting better. It just hurt now when I overdid it, but at night I was constantly woken. And again, it took me 4 or 5 nights, because I'm a quicker learner than I was so many years ago, because I didn't appreciate this. But I now look at it and I say, aha, this is my pain system, and I am going to talk to my pain system. So I'll quieten down. I'll say, look, I know my back's getting better. Feel this fantastic, this side's wonderful. And my pain at night is starting to improve as well. So that's using neuromind or mind-body technique and understanding what happens with chronic pain to make sure that I don't fall into the same patterns of reactive pain at night, keeping me awake, and then I get tired and grumpy, etc. So that's the first part. The second was really interesting, because part of the injury, the main injury, was when I was hit here. But part of it was that I was hit there, and I had a sharp pain, just a line of pain across the front of my shoulder on the side. And it wasn't about day 2 or 3 that I noticed the same pain on the other side, which hadn't been there. And it was really intense. And it was as I went to move my arm, I thought, ah, my God, I must have hit this side. Now, that was my first thought. And then I thought, whoa, hang on a minute. This is day 3. I had nothing on day 1 or 2. I did not hit this side. And my pain system is turning on exactly the same pain on my good side, which is a revelation. That's very interesting. Never noticed that before. Never asked anybody, although people certainly do describe that they get exactly the same pain on the other side. So we have a corpus callosum, which joins the 2 sides of our brain. We also have in the spinal cord, so if you look, the spinal cord's tiny. I mean, it's probably as thick as my finger here. And what you have is information coming from this side. You've got, which then gets amplified and does what it does when it reaches your brain. That's the pain coming from this side. But there are little interneurons which go up and go across. So it's not a very difficult thing for the amplifier to be turned on the other side of your spinal cord. And when an amplifier is turned on, it creates the same pain that you have on the one side. So your pain system can turn on a pain on the opposite side, not because of damage, purely because of the naughty things that can occur in your pain system where amplification can just shift sides. And I thought, so I did this little hoppity skip in my head and I thought, that's bullshit. And just thinking that's bullshit and stop it. This thing just melted away. I haven't felt it again. It was just total nonsense. And this is fascinating that your pain system is capable of all kinds of things. And what you have up here is in your prefrontal cortex and in your thinking part of your brain is that you have something which will make sense of the messages if you choose to make sense of them. And to make sense of them, you need the underlying knowledge. And the underlying knowledge, well, that's what I have. And normally in a situation where you sort of have a reason for pain, you will just accept what you feel, but don't. Always apply your cognitive, your reasoning to the pain. Does it truly make sense? If it doesn't truly make sense, then that is your pain system malfunctioning, and the pain system malfunctioning is something that you can change, and you change by using knowledge and then by applying neuromind mind-body techniques.